Yeah, I really can recommend, if somebody wants to reveal the truth about something, or wants to rectify lies that have been told about her or him, then I really can recommend John to handle that, and get it over with.
Yeah. It's innate in who I am, Fred. Everyone on Zoom, and this has been a very last minute set up here. We've been trying to test things and get things working, so hopefully everyone can hear me okay and everything's working. So let me just give you a little breakdown on what brings us here today. So basically, I've got a friend here. He's on the call. He's going to be the sort of main guy that I'll be interviewing here today. His name's Luke Calladine, and a bit of a free spirit. Say hello, Luke.
Hello, everyone. Great to meet you all. Thanks for coming.
Luke's a co-host here. Also, Luke, can you just bear in mind to keep an eye on who's coming in and stuff like that? Basically, we have came under some information that allows us to be able to free ourselves from society in terms of the system that we live under. So we believe, generally speaking, that you come into the world and you've got a birth certificate, and then you get a passport, and then you get a license, and then you've got all these things attributed to this name. And then from there, you've got the law that comes in, which puts any justice system basically comes on to that name. And so what we find is that many injustices take place, and we don't realize that actually this name doesn't belong to us. It's not owned by us. If you, for example, are born in the UK, your name is owned by the Queen. It's not yours. It doesn't. You don't belong with that name. And so, in essence, realistically, anything that happens under that name is actually the Queen's responsibility. So we find ourselves getting tied in with the justice systems, and they ask you, are you, for example, John Carr? And 9 times out of 10, you're going to say yes. And as soon as you do that, you identify with that dead legal entity that does not belong to you. And from there, a whole can of worms can open, and you can find yourself in a lot of trouble. Julian Assange, I rest my case. So we are living in a world today, basically, where the system is not designed and set up for the benefit of the people. I think that's quite clear to see right now. I mean, COVID, again, rest my case. Worldwide governments are showing that they have absolutely no respect for people's free will, for their freedom of movement, for their businesses. They create a blatant lie and justify everything that they do under that lie. And then you can go into so many different areas. You can look at the medical establishment, you can look at the vaccines, you can look at so many different aspects. But one aspect that I've overlooked personally myself is the point of the psychiatric wards, which, when Luke told me his story, just absolutely blew my mind. I can't wait to dive into it with you. What it made, because what I've understood is when you're dealing with a satanic system, everything is reversed, everything is completely on its head. If you go to a hospital and you're looking to get cured from cancer, what do they offer you? They offer you radiation, where they tell you that radiation causes cancer. It's a complete inversion, and it is an inversion. If you read the news, if you watch the news, if they tell you one thing, you can be sure that you can invert the whole story and you'll get the truth. That's how you can learn the truth about the news. Is all you have to do is simply invert what they're telling you, and you'll get the truth. So let's put that into the context of a psychiatric ward where they're supposed to keep insane people there. from what Luke's told me, I believe that there's a lot of sane people in this world that are kept in the psychiatric wards because of the level of sanity they've reached. Of course, we're going to have people who generally do have, mental health problems. And, there's certain situations there where family members can't deal with that situation. You've got a family member who's, flipping out, basically. The parents can't cope with it, the siblings can't cope with it, and in the end they find themselves in a psychiatric ward, which is a shame, and it's a very it's hard to say what you can do at that point, because if I had mental health problems, I certainly wouldn't want to be found myself. I wouldn't want to find myself in a psychiatric ward. So it's very difficult to point on that, but I don't want to talk about necessarily just that, right? Okay, there's the reason, the real reason where psychiatric wards are there, but there's also the more sinister reason that shows what the psychiatric wards are for, and that's basically to take good, sane people off the streets. Because, well, for example, you'll find healers in there, people who are claiming they can cure cancer, or they are claiming they can heal you with one form or another. And because of that, they're deemed insane. So these are the type of people that are getting held in these places, and they've been held there for that particular reason. And if you don't conform to the way that they want you to conform, i.e., yes, I believe I can't cure people, and yes, I believe that. Basically, if you tell them you're crazy in the way that they want you to tell you, that they want to hear it, they'll let you go. They'll let you go because you're mad enough that they can let you out of the psychiatric wards. That is how inverted that system is. So let's dive straight into it. I just want to welcome Cristiano as well. He's just dived in here as well. He's going to be talking about OPPT and the solution to all of this. And the information that this guy's got here is absolutely invaluable. I've got a lot to learn myself from this. This is from what I was telling you about before, how you can actually remove your name from that system and create a new name that you own, and you can protect yourselves from these types of abuses of the system. So welcome here, Cristiano. So look, let's dive straight into it then. Tell me a little bit about, to tell the guys here and the people that are going to be watching the COP recording, a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you're up to, and generally sort of how you found yourself in a situation where you end up in a psychiatric ward, and the basic sort of introduction.
Hey everyone, so I'm Luke, I'm 28 years old, from a place called Derby in England, lived in Mallorca about 10 years now, and essentially the past couple of years, I went through a big change in my life. And what started it off was a few years back, I basically was camping out on a mountain, and they said I couldn't camp there, it was illegal. So I basically tried to use what I thought was a system using natural law to stand up for my rights. So I used this same model, or this same concept of knowledge, when I had this encounter when I was staying in an abandoned house, and they basically tried to take me from the place. I didn't want to give my name, and I just went by what I knew. And I realized that the system is so much deeper than I thought. There's a lot more depth to it. There's a lot more structure. And I basically didn't know as much as I thought. So this whole experience brought everything to the surface of that I knew nothing, that I needed to really go into learning about common law and OPPT. And I realized that it gave me so much strength to be able to share this as well, because it was not easy to actually agree to an interview and do this. So I'm really grateful to bring this awareness to people so that we can prevent it from happening in the future, to give everyone a solution, and at least put that knowledge out there and see where it goes.
Yeah. So yeah, it is very brave, because I mean, people who find themselves in a psychiatric ward, the last thing they want to do is tell anybody about it. They don't want people to think, and this is where the fear of what other people think, that is the greatest prison that anyone could ever find themselves in, is being in the fear of what other people think, because that is just the one thing that silences people. It's the one thing that allows like, for example, elite paedophilia to go on, for example, you know, that fear of what other people think. I don't want to say anything because people might say that, so cahoots to you for saying that. Just to put some context here, when Luke was talking about he was camping up in a hill, it was a public ground, and he refused to give his name. And basically what happened is the Guardia Civil had taken him into the station because they wanted to identify him. They fingerprinted him, they still couldn't identify him, and he came, basically, he learned from my experience, and I'll share maybe in the link somewhere, the video that I created, because when the lockdown started here in Mallorca, I refused everything. I refused to wear the mask. I refused to stay locked in the house, etc., etc. And I found myself caught up with the police a number of times. I was asking them for a fine. So I wanted a souvenir at the time. I wanted a souvenir to say, yes, this guy's not wearing a mask. He's going to get a fine for it. Long story short, they took my car off me because I was driving past a certain hour of the night. And I went to court to get my car back. And basically, I had the whole case ripped up and thrown out of court because I refused to identify myself as a person or a dead legal entity, because I am not John Carr. I am a natural, sovereign individual, a living, breathing soul, and I'm here as a representative to the dead legal entity that is John Carr. So when they ask me, are you John Carr, and they have this identity in front of them, I say, no, that's not me. And they say, well, who is this person then? They say, I say, this person is John Carr, but it's not me. I'm a living, breathing soul. So what happened is, and this is all on YouTube, by the way, you can go watch the whole proceedings, it's the whole court process, and everything is all recorded, it's all on YouTube. They basically threw the case out of court. So Luke learned from that experience, and he didn't want to give his name, though. But I wouldn't advise that. I would always advise that you meet the police on the same level. You identify them, they identify you, so that you're on an equal par of accountability. But Luke didn't do that the first time. But he did walk out of the courts as well. So he believed then that he had basically found a way also to kind of close down the system from infringing on his rights, although it did take him 24 hours to do it. Whereas if you identify yourself, it's not so bad. So he went through the process again. He found a house, an abandoned farmhouse, where a farmer had come along and basically had told him he had to get off the land because he was managing the land but didn't own the property. And so he didn't give his name again. He went through the whole system again. 24 hours later, got out, and then he went back to the same farmhouse. Police came again, same process, still didn't identify his name. The strength of this boy, I'm telling you. And went through the system again. Unfortunately, this time it was over the course of the weekend. So they held him in the prison cells over the weekend. Come Monday, he found himself in front of a judge who basically said this man, because he wouldn't identify his name, must be crazy. And so they sent him to a psychiatric ward to assess him. So look, why tell a little bit about the story, about how you found, about the process you went through there. And what happened when you went to the psychiatric ward?
Well, just to give a quick reminder, when I basically got released from the prison the first time and I won the court case when I was camping on top of the mountain, this basically gave me the knowledge, and I had a perception in that moment that I knew my rights as a natural sovereign being, and I had a process that worked. So when I used this same approach the next time, I was just in so much confidence that I could still use it again. So essentially, when I'm in this abandoned house, which I'm in there for a week and I have no problems, I know that it was abandoned for at least a year before I move in the place. And I knew that I had the rights to be there. It turns out that one of the farmers on a nearby land was actually managing the property in some way, but because he didn't have deeds to the property or he didn't own it, I knew that he didn't actually have any rights over me. So I basically was very confident in that moment. But when the first time he called the police, 2 police officers came. I went through the same process. I said, I don't identify as a person. I am a natural sovereign being. And then I realized later on that it's because I was being unresponsive to them. And under the Spanish law, it's like an assault or a criminal offense, and they can hold you up to 72 hours in the prison without a name. So when I basically get taken back to the station, they use lots and lots of fear tactics to try and get your name out of you. They try to trick you, like what's your mother's name? Where's your passport? How did you get to Mallorca? They'll try so many different tech. And when you're in this process for the system, the fear takes over your body so much, like that you can't even breathe. It's a lot of fear that you go through, and I feel like because it's very deeply rooted, it's embedded within our subconscious mind, because we've always grown up in a society with police. So that fear is really distilled in us on an emotional level. So when that takes over our body, I can really see why in the moment a lot of people cannot handle these situations with the police. But if we don't go through the fear, then we're not going to get that change, or we're not going to get that growth in that moment. But the first time after I'm in the system for about 1.5 days, they don't even really give me much water. They treat me in like a pretty bad way. They also, this time I refused to give my fingerprints because I was listening to John. I didn't want to give anything away. So they actually forced my fingerprints out of me. One of the police guys smashed my head on the floor, and then 3 of them are jumping on me, and then they take the fingerprints from me, which is all illegal. And then eventually when I see, after 1.5 days being in the system, I go to the courts. When I get released, without ever giving a name, they actually put a number next to me on my sheet that I got taken away. They forced a lawyer on me. I said, I don't want a lawyer. I want to be my own lawyer. I want to represent myself. And they forced the lawyer on you without any say in it. I also seen a forensic doctor, and I basically told them a few things to the forensic doctor, but I basically had it pushed on me like I had no choice. But then I realized afterwards that because I was talking to the forensic doctor, which is part of the system, they're always going to defend the system. So the fact that I was sharing certain things, they actually created a false perception based on my addictions in the past. So they're seeing it through their own lens. And because everyone in the system are still dependent on their own addictions, they assume everybody else has a crazy disorder, or they have an addiction, or they have something that's making them not be responsive. So they labeled me as mentally insane because I wasn't given my name. But they didn't actually understand my rights. Or they're going from the Spanish system.
So basically what's happening here is you're not playing the rules of the system, and so because you're not playing by the rules of the system, then they are able to categorize you in a way then that they basically say that you're not sane. So basically what it means is that if you're not living by the way that the state decides that you should live, i.e. 2 + 2 makes 5, just like George Orwell had written about of 1984 back in the 1940s, if you don't play by that rule, then you must be insane. And so they take you away into some random place and they make you sane again, but they put all this fear into you. And by the way, just put into context, this was the second time we went to see the psychiatric doctor, because he had the bravery to go back to the farmhouse again when he was released after the first time, and then the police was called again the second time, and then he went through the prison system over the weekend, and then he saw the psychiatric doctor. So
just to say there, John, the psychiatric doctor was only the first time.
All right.
And then the second time I didn't see it. They just based it from the last experience, the fact I needed to go to the psychiatric ward.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the psychiatric ward then, because this is one of the most interesting parts here. You find yourself in the psychiatric ward. What's going through your head here? What did you experience? Just tell us your story there. Go full on now. Look, tell us what happened.
Well, after 1.5 days being in the prison, going back to the abandoned house, and then back into the system again, the second time I had my wallet on me with all my ID and stuff, and this was the first time. But I used the same process that John used, which I was like, I don't identify as this person. I disidentified from the ID, but based on my past experience with the forensic doctor and doing it 2 days in a row, I realized that I got so lost in the system. They're in so much in denial. They don't care that they're wasting their own time. They didn't even know, even though I shown them the paper from the day before, they didn't care that I won the case. The next time was 4 police officers, and it's like they're proud to waste their own time. So the second time I went in, they didn't care that I didn't identify as a person. They just put me under that name. So I never had any choice in that moment. At first, they tried to make me believe, and they asked me, would you like to go to the hospital to spend a few days, to recuperate, to go over things, to see a doctor? And I was like, no, in my heart, I do not feel this. I do not want to go. I would like to decide and not go to this place. And then eventually they forced it on me. And the second time, the judge didn't even speak to me. She made a decision by speaking to the lawyer and the translator, which was illegal, because every other time you have to speak to the judge before a decision is made. So they basically took me in the police car, took me to the hospital. In this moment, I only think I have to go to the normal hospital. That's all I know. But then when I go into the place, I'm in my handcuffs in a hospital, which is ridiculous. And then they get 2 people to speak to me, and they said, now you're going to have to spend a few days in the psychiatric ward. And because I watched loads of movies in the past, and I really had a bad perception of the psychiatric wards, the amount of fear that I felt in that moment really was way more than going in the prison. It was more going in anything else, because all I was thinking is they're going to pump you with drugs, they're going to strap you up, that I could be in there for I don't know how long. And essentially, I had no choice. I was took into the psychiatric ward, and essentially I was in there for 2.5 days total. But people that I was speaking in the actual ward with, the most time that they keep you in there is 2 weeks minimum, sometimes a month. And now I'm here in England, they're actually doing it for a couple of years for people that don't have any mental disorders. So for me, the whole new world that I seen and the depth of the system that I seen was like, it blew my mind to shreds, because I was like, oh my God, this is like, feels like the craziest movie that I'm in right now. It feels so surreal that it's still happening. And when I'm getting to know the people in the ward and really like understanding people that are labeled with like bipolar, other mental disorders, I'm talking to the people, and everyone in there is really expressive. They're open. To me, the crazy people are actually the society, and what they label as people in the mental disorder or psychiatric ward are actually the people that they should be looking up to.
So let me just ask you this. Look, tell the group here about the kind of circumstances, because obviously you've found yourself in a psychiatric ward through the most random of circumstances, right? You're basically taking on a squatters' rights role. You don't actually have squatters' rights in Spain. I only realise that now because I researched it. But even still, squatters in Spain are very, very much protected, because the laws just don't really, they take a long time to do anything about it. So this is said to be a squatter's paradise. In your case, it was very different. But you found yourself in a psychiatric ward just because you were squatting in an abandoned property. Nobody has nobody that actually owns the place has told you to leave, and just because of that, you've found yourself in a psychiatric ward. So that is pretty crazy. But why don't we talk about the other people that you found in there and the reasons that they found themselves in the psychiatric wards? I think that's important, how one person can find themselves in a psychiatric ward, so that we know the kind of things they can do to categorize you in there and put you into that position.
Yeah, so when I ended up in there, I realized that all the rooms and all the beds were completely full. One guy that I met in there, he initially went into the hospital with heart problems from eating different kind of foods that really messed his heart up in a bad way. So he should have had actually surgery on his heart, and they didn't actually treat any of his heart problems, they actually referred him and transferred him to the psychiatric ward without giving him a choice. They never treated his heart problems. So then when he was in the psychiatric ward, he was suffering. I was seeing it with my eyes. The guy was suffering and he couldn't really like walk because he had like all these problems in his heart. And then they've labeled him with another mental disorder. For me, I was lucky that the way it was whether the way I answered the questions or I did something that I didn't have to take drugs, but everyone else in there, no choice. They are pumped with drugs twice a day. He was pumped with drugs twice a day. He didn't want to actually take the drugs and he said no to them, but they strap you to the bed. They don't give you the choice. And if you don't take the pills, then they're just going to inject you anyway. They literally don't give you the choice. Everything's locked in. You can't get out. You don't have access to your phone or anything. It's another prison in there. I was watching it because they're giving you food to eat that looks good, that tastes okay, but it's not food. It's not anything that's going to heal anybody. There was another woman in there as well that was 44 years old. And because her father called up saying that she was mentally ill, they took her in. And she's 44 years old and they took her in. There's a guy in the UK, Paul, that my perception got opened up to, and he was in there for 8 weeks because he started immersing himself in this healers community. He started to change his life. His mum and dad thought he was crazy. He's also in his 40s in the UK, and he's currently in the psychiatric ward still. He's been in there 8 weeks. He's had drugs every day. He's having to take other drugs to compensate the side effects. The drugs that they're giving you in there, it's making them suicidal. It's making them tired. They can't function, and they literally have no way out of this circle. They don't even know. They actually think they're crazy themselves. Everyone in there thinks they're crazy. So that label itself, it's creating, it's keeping them stuck in that loop, in that reality. They don't know any way out.
Yeah, and the same guy, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Luke, but this same guy here, Paul, this is the guy that the psychiatric ward, the staff in there, they broke his ribs. Is that not right?
They broke his ribs. They broke his ribs because he didn't want to take the drugs. He said, no, I don't want to. And there's also a few extra people in there that he knows in the similar situation in England. It's happening everywhere, Spain, England, all these different countries. But we don't really know it. And the problem is that the people that are working and they know this is happening, they're in so much fear that if they lose their job, they can't pay their bills. They're in the same cycle and loop. Because I know of someone recently that was working in there and they know of people that are being kept in there for many years and they know that they have no mental issues or any mental problems, and they're being kept in places like this. And for me, it's a way that they can also get away with keeping people in prison that they don't have maybe any evidence under or things like that.
And let's just put things into a little bit of perspective here as well, right? I don't know what the political view is with people here in the group about COVID-19. Personally, I know for 100% fact it doesn't exist, never did, never will. And they were always planning to get these vaccines out. Now, when you see that these vaccines are coming out, you see there's heart problems all over the place here, right? So people are dying left, right, and centre on the fields and everything with heart attacks. So, I mean, I don't know, right? But the chances are that this guy who's went to the psychiatric ward, went to the hospital complaining about heart problems here in Mallorca, chances are he's probably had the vaccine. Now, they don't want to label this guy as another number who has had an adverse reaction against the COVID-19 vaccines. So chances are then that just because he's went there with heart problems, rather than putting down as another effect of the COVID-19 vaccines, because they're trying to, as bad as the numbers already are shown on the official statistics, they're still trying to limit it as much as possible to bring it down. So right across the world, you're going to have people that are going to the hospital complaining about heart problems and finding themselves in a psychiatric ward because they don't want to label the guy as or the person, as another person who's had effects from the COVID-19 vaccine. So can you imagine, right? Even if you didn't have the vaccine, you go to the hospital, you want to get helped, you've got heart problems. This is a scary thing. You know, I mean, I can imagine if you don't have your heart pumping, you don't have anything working, nothing's. It's a scary thing, So you go to the hospital and you've got a heart problem, and because of that, you find yourself in a psychiatric ward. That is in itself absolutely crazy, in my opinion. Look, have you got anything else you want to share before we move on? We've got another person in here. We've got Helena, and she's going to talk about her experience as well in the psychiatric ward. But just before we start with Helena, I want to finish with Luke. If you get anything else you want to add before we move on to Helena's story.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this really drove me and gave me so much inspiration and motivation to actually share this knowledge out there. And I only feel that because I've been able to go through so much fear in my life, that I actually am able to talk about this experience, because many other people that I am trying to get on the interview that are in the same situation, it's hard for people to show up and to really communicate this and to speak the truth. It's really not an easy thing, because I did create a lot of false perception, like my family's going to judge me, the community that I built here are going to judge me based on what I've been through. But I realized that it's so important. And as you will know, at some point when we speak with Cristiano, which knows more about OPPT, this is something that I really urge everybody to spend their time looking into, really taking their time out of their day to look into common law, into OPPT, to look into how each law system works in every different country and where you're living, so that if you get in a situation similar to that I have in your future, they have no right and they can't do anything. But it will only change when you go through the fear yourself. And I feel like sometimes we need that accountability and somebody to help us through these fears, else it will not change. And that's what not only we're here to spread this information, anyone that's on this call here today, we're also here to support you and help you through any of these fears that you might have within your own practical daily lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Luciana's just, I hope I've pronounced her name properly, she just asked a very good question, which is one of the questions that Cristiano asked you as well, was that did you notify the system about your status of occupying the house?
No, so at this point in my journey, I didn't really go much into OPPT, because in that moment, I thought that under natural law, if I disidentified as my ID, that I didn't need to go into OPPT. So I actually created a false perception myself. But since this experience, it gave me the power and the motivation to actually really go to it and spread this information more about how it's important to learn OPPT as well.
Yeah. And the second question isn't valid to Luke because he doesn't have, he's not been through the OPPT process yet, so he doesn't have the universal pass or any self-made documents as of yet. That's not going to last for too long after this. So is there anything else you want to add, Luke, before we move on to Helena?
That should be it for now.
Okay. Well, Helena, welcome and thank you for joining with a late notice. I did, from the conversation that we've had before, I recall you telling me some things before about you being through these systems, but we didn't go into any detail. And with the short notice, I've actually no idea what you're going to bring on, what you're going to bring to the table here, Helena. So it should be interesting to hear your story. So welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're coming from, where you are, etc. And we'll take it from there.
Thank you, John, for bravely allowing me to be here, despite not knowing a word that I'm going to say. So I'm currently in the UK, and I have been part of the mental health system for 30 years, both NHS and private. I've enjoyed many stays in both private and NHS mental health facilities. My grandmother was institutionalized for 40 years in Sweden for diagnosis of manic depression. Bipolar didn't exist then. And I ended up on 2019 on 11 different psychiatric medications, needing ECT, which by the skin of my teeth I didn't have. And the last 2 years, I'm not on anything now. I don't have any mental health problems. I never did have any mental health problems because I've spent the last 2 years investigating psychiatric medication, psychiatry, the mental health system. And my kind of specialty area, if you like, which ties into a lot of what you've been talking about with the jab as well. I don't like calling it a vaccine because it's not a vaccine. With the clot shot, is an adverse reaction to medication, which is toxic encephalopathy or akathisia, which no one has heard of, but to my mind is probably one of the main causes of mental illness, and why most people currently in mental hospitals are suffering from either gaslighting of, as we've talked about, that kind of inversion of if you're not behaving how society dictates. And my grandmother, for instance, was put in hospital because she was grieving. She was grieving the loss of 2 young children that died. Her husband couldn't cope with her. Women in Sweden weren't allowed to be expressive. She was very creative. So she was put into a mental hospital. I visited her there once when I was 14. It was a classic kind of one flew over the cuckoo's nest. She was put on lithium. She had an adverse reaction to the lithium. She became suicidal. She was given ECT 15 times and she never left the hospital. She was there for 40 years and she died there. And my adventures began when I was 29. I was first hospitalized for depression. And I now know that I didn't have depression. I had toxic encephalopathy. I was first put on medication when I was 13. I was sexually abused as a child. I was then put on Prozac when I was 21. And it was probably the Prozac that tipped me over. And for the next 30 years, essentially, I fought getting off the medication. At 26, they wanted to hospitalize me for a year in somewhere called the Castle in Ham, where, but this is probably before any of your guys' time, or you won't remember, there was a young girl that used to murder babies, and she's called Beverly Allett, and she'd been sent there. And I remember thinking, my God, I'm depressed, I want to kill myself, and you're sending me to a unit where there's a baby killer on. It was just extraordinary to me. And I managed to avoid going there. I went to rehab instead, and I cleaned up my act. And I was repeatedly through this time cold turkeyed off medication, put on different medication. And the build-up, the adverse reaction. So akathisia can start as a sense of inner restlessness, where you just feel like ants in your pants. You feel anxious, you want to move, and then it builds up into panic attacks, agoraphobia, terror, into suicidal ideation, and then the worst case is, for me anyway, is homicidal ideation. So there are people currently languishing in jail who killed their children shortly after starting an SSRI antidepressant like Prozac, and there are people fighting to get those people out. And Marcy, who is a woman that I follow, who's currently in jail in psychiatric hospital in America, killed her daughter on medication, was sent to jail, was found to be not insane, taken off her medication, recovered, is in a psychiatric hospital, is blogging about her experiences there. If you ever want to feel grateful, my God, read her story. It's unreal the way she's being treated. And the judge has ordered for her to be released, but the hospital says they will not release her unless she is put back on the medication, the very medication that caused her to lose her mind, to kill her own child. She literally cannot get her head around this, and neither can the people who are advocating to try and get her out of this hospital. Anyway, so I bounced in and out of NHS mental health wards. They don't really exist anymore in the UK. They've all been shut down. So that the growth of the Priory Group, which is the private mental health system in the UK, has kind of taken over. And now the NHS pay the Priory millions of our taxpayers' money to treat people with supposed mental health problems. And the Priory is a money-making machine that cleared £400 million of profit recently. It was sold recently for £1 billion. And I believe one of its directors makes 500 grand a year, 579,000 quid in 2020. There's a recent expose in the Times in April about all the patients who are dying in the Priory. So the Priory I ended up in 2011 and 2014 because my experiences of the NHS were so traumatic. It's been talked about. You feel like you are a prisoner. You feel like you've committed a crime. You are treated like a piece of dirt. You are locked in a room on your own, no distractions, nothing to do, and someone will periodically open a door to check that you haven't killed yourself. And that's the sum total of the NHS essentially. And I was able to run away from those buildings. The Priory, you pay 1,000 quid a day to go into, and you get a nicer room, a bit nicer food, and you will get therapy if you are well enough to attend. And while I was there, I just ended up on more and more medication. And my son was 14. He'd gone to stay with a friend. And when I discovered that he wasn't where he was supposed to be, I freaked out and I told my counsellor, I'm really worried where my son is. And without telling me, she called the police and social services, and as a safeguarding issue. And okay, so to put into context, I'm a therapist. I've worked with children for the last 15 years. I've worked in the field of mental health. So I had, it was so traumatic, and my son was at home. He'd gone home and he had a party and stuff. And so I discharged myself. No follow-up, nothing. All they wanted was my money. All they wanted was my money after that event, and I didn't give them my money. I fought them to the very end and didn't give them a penny on that occasion. They are a money-making machine. They do not care about your mental health. There are people dying in these hospitals. They are killing themselves because of the lack of care. They are not, they're supposed to be moderated. They're supposed to be sort of looked after and investigated and kept on top of. There are failings left, right, and centre. So the last period of time when I had I'd become almost catatonic, and I tried to I had 6 suicide attempts over the last 15 years because of this thing called akathisia, because of medication. And the last time I ended up in the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London. And they had to keep me there for a week because there wasn't a bed in the entire country. I mean, our mental health is at breaking point. Our mental health services in the UK is at breaking point. And I will tell you why, because akathisia is caused by 500 different types of medication. It's caused by the clot shot, for one. So you're talking, John, about people going to hospital. I mean, I've been watching the adverse reactions to the jab. I've been watching because for every reaction to the jab, there's a medication to treat it. So the mental health is going to be catastrophic. The reactions to it, I've seen the neurological reactions are huge. And everyone who is having these reactions, we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is. And I'm screaming, I know exactly what that is. That's tardive dyskinesia, that's akathisia, that's asphasia, that is caused by the jab. And the worst thing you can do is medicate it. The worst thing you can do. The only answer how to treat akathisia is no medication, no toxins. So you have to, clean up your diet. You have to be religious about any kind of chemicals that you come into contact with. A lot of people don't make it. I'm in lots of support groups where people are killing themselves left, right, and center because it is unbearable. It's unbearable torture. I don't have it mentally anymore. I managed to heal myself in 2020 when I came off my medication, and but physically I still have it really badly. It reacts to cortisol, adrenaline. So the 500 different types of drugs. I mean, we joke, us survivors, that it is satanic because it's like you're possessed by the devil.
No, yeah, if I could just interject.
Yeah.
When you're talking about there's 500 different types of drugs, I've been researching the truth for well over 10 years now. And, it's funny, actually, because on the way here, just to join to this meeting, I was listening to a song that was on the radio, and I was coming along here, and it was a song about losing your mind. And I thought, that's quite relevant, actually, because I'm just about to go and take a meeting about psychiatric wards. And there is, when you actually look at, Christ, there's the music industry is one, but everywhere you look, there's something about mental health. When you're singing a song, I am losing my mind, what kind of song is that to be listening to? But this is what they're promoting. They're pushing this because where do they make all their money? If the beds are empty, the fact that there is not an empty bed anywhere in the UK shows that they're doing pretty good business right there. But they're not going to do good business if they don't have people in those beds. Just as the cancer industry works as well, they're not going to have people, and they're not going to be making billions in the cancer industry if they don't create a situation where people are lacking the information to know what is causing the cancer, and so what can prevent it. And so everything, as I said from the beginning, is always completely inverted. Yeah. And that's the reality. And that actually Satanists own these hospitals as well. Eugenics is alive and well, and it always has been, even when it went underground back in the 1940s or 50s. And they take many different forms. So the sort of medications that you're talking, and they can also be found in foods and water as well. So if you're not eating organic foods, for example, you're eating the sort of general foods in the supermarket. You've got wax around apples. You think you're doing a good job, for example. You've got all these massive amount of chemicals now. And all of these different types of foods. And people wonder why they find themselves in a psychiatric ward. People wonder why they find themselves bipolar or with any other different kind of mental illness. Is because the whole system is designed that way. And if you can somehow go through that level of life without realizing it and still come out, clean on the other side, and God bless you somehow. But if you understand the reality of how the actual system works, who owns it, who runs it, and how it works in all its different aspects and all its different, in the media and the education and the health system, we're opening a massive can of worms here. And the psychiatric ward is just one aspect of it, and let alone probably one of the most deepest aspects.
It is. And I mean, it's all, the love of money truly is the root of all evil. But there is something more satanic to it because, when you're in that kind of akathisia state, you're not thinking, oh, I'm so depressed, I want to kill myself. There is a voice in your head screaming at you, kill yourself, you don't deserve to live, you're scum. It is like you are possessed by an entity that is not you. It's very common for people to talk about that. And I look back at that person that I was, that is not me. that is not me. And it is terrifying to wake up and find out that 30 years of your life was taken over by something that was not you. And everyone who knows you at that person. And I just want to tie this into what's been happening recently, because you can imagine, you know, I came off my meds and discovered that we were in the midst of the biggest psyop in the history of humanity, for the purpose of the Great Reset and you know, the depop. No one was going to take me seriously. Oh, Helena, she's come off her meds and she's screaming about, you know, don't take the vaccine. I mean, I was screwed. There was just no way. And indeed, my friend Romaine, her family tried to have her sectioned. The police turned up to section her because she was telling her family, you know, don't get the clot shot, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I foresee very dark times coming for all of us who are speaking out about this, because of the changes to the Mental Health Act that came in last year. It only takes one doctor now to diagnose you as being mentally ill, and that you should be sectioned, that used to be two. And, you know, just from the studies that I've done into the mental hospitals that sprung up around the last reset, you know, possibly it's a bigger area, but there's a good evidence to show that, you know, we've been here before, we've been through this before, we've witnessed, you know, an event like this before in our history, and potentially many people who witnessed it lost their minds or were institutionalized to keep them quiet from what they witnessed. And, you know, we have all of us who are awake to what's going on have been called to witness this event that we are going to go through in the next couple of years, whether we like it or not. It's going to happen. And so for me, this journey has been about becoming mentally as strong as possible and learning everything that you're talking about my human rights as a sovereign being, because, you know, I am just the sort of person that they will lock up and medicate against my will, and I cannot afford. I will not. I mean, I've left the NHS, I've left the system. I'm no longer in the system. I wrote a legal letter to my doctor, to the NHS, saying I no longer acquiesce to any treatment. You know, stop handing my number out, stop sending me texts. I don't want anything more to do with you. What I'd like to do, John, is sue the fuck out of somebody, get a lot of money together so I can set up a proper health system. I don't even want to call it a hospital, I don't even want to call it a treatment center, but something, you know, Sataria.
Well, continue, but I've really got to go to the toilet, sorry.
Sataria in the 70s was a system that was set up in America that treated schizophrenia very successfully without a medication, and it was systematically shut down, and the psychiatrist running it was completely discredited. And I know there are systems being set up in Norway and Scandinavia to try and treat people who are unwell. I don't want to call them mentally ill, because for me, it's iatrogenic illness. So it's people who have been harmed by the system, who've been harmed by medication. I'm doing this talk and my dog is destroying his bed next to me because he wants my attention. So bear with me. Rafi, stop it. He's completely destroyed his bed. So I'm very trying to be solution based of, yes, there's a huge problem. What do we do to fix this problem? In an ideal world, they would all be shut down. They would all be shut down, and people would be held accountable, because, you know, this article in the Times talks about, you know, 30 lives that were lost, and no one is being sent to jail. No one is ever sent to jail from the pharmaceutical companies, even when they are taken to court, and even when, for instance, Purdue in court admitted killing 500,000 people with OxyContin. No one went to jail. There is no accountability, because it's rotten all the way through the system.
And you know, in saying that, Helena, when you're talking about no one going to jail, it's like yeah, trying to sue people and everything else. I don't see that you're ever going to get through anywhere, but because it's part of the agenda. And whenever something's part of the agenda, nothing stops it. I used to go to the government office here about the geoengineering spraying in the sky. Went for quite a long time. You're never going to get through it, even though I proved it and I showed that it was all the result was happening, so on and so forth. Same with COVID-19, even though it's blatantly obvious it's killing loads of people with these vaccines, it's never going to go through because it's part of the agenda. When something's part of the agenda, nothing budges from it. And so the best thing that one can do is educate themselves and learn to protect themselves and share that information with other people so that they can protect themselves as well. I'd like to ask you one more question, then I'd like to ask the rest of the guys here in the Zoom if I've got a question for either yourself or Luke before I move on to Cristiano and OPPT. What kind of injustices would you see in the sort of psychiatric ward? What's a sort of standard injustice that you might see in these places? What kind of things did you see?
I saw, I mean, personally, I've been held down and strapped to, so when with Aki, you literally want to get up and smash your head against a wall because it's so unbearable in your head. And I've been strapped down to a bed and been unable to do that. If you sleep and you miss a meal, they don't wake you up, they don't feed you, they don't give you the opportunity to even bring food in. And I'm talking about the private sector here as well. People are sent home. While I was in, someone was sent home without a care plan for a weekend break, and they killed themselves that weekend. I mean, to be honest, I'm going to, like Luke was talking about, what happened to me was so traumatic that I have very profound CPTSD, very complex post-traumatic stress disorder, about the multiple events that happened to me that, you know, I don't particularly like talking about. If you've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you know, it's pretty much like that in the NHS system. 100%, you know, people scream. I mean, it's like what I would imagine Bedlam to have been like hundreds of years ago. And what you talked about is how I've healed, was educating myself and speaking up about it. And I know I can't overturn the system, but if I can educate one person into understanding that they do not have bipolar, they do not have schizophrenia, they do not have psychosis, they do not have clinical depression, which I need to say at this point doesn't exist. There is no evidence to show that depression or any mental health is caused by chemical imbalance in your brain or genetics. That's a lie. They do not have those things. What they have is an iatrogenic illness caused by a medication, and this is what they need to do. And if I can help one or two people learn the truth about their condition, then my story, and you know, I've only briefly touched on it, all the things that I lost, you know, I am very, it is a miracle to me that I'm alive, an absolute miracle. So given that gift, you know, I will continue talking out about this, even though I've had death threats, you know, I've been severely silenced and censored, but people need to know this. People need to know this, so I will carry on talking about it.
I've actually got someone that I know quite close to me, actually, who has recently been put into a psychiatric ward, and they're talking about the same situations, actually, that he's bipolar, he's missing the same things you mentioned, he's missing a chemical in his brain and stuff like that. What kind of solution then would you say would be needed to free them? And you know, the whole family's going through a real sort of shit show right now because of this. But you know, what would be the solution then? I mean,
education is always the first step, and you know, unfortunately, there are psychiatrists out there talking out about this, and you know, I can pass on stuff to you that you can pass on to them. You have to, but even the peculiar thing I found is the kind of cognitive dissonance that you have to work with, that we've all been brainwashed to an extent about what mental illness is. And so when I'm coming along going, well, actually, it's not that. You have to overcome the cognitive dissonance. And some people will choose to believe that they are mentally ill rather than fully embrace the fact that they've been made ill by professionals that they trust. As was the case for me, because I first came into contact with this in 2006, but it took me 14 years to break through that. And because it is deeply, deeply traumatic to fully appreciate and understand the depths of the lies. The depth is just insane. So, and then the other solution is, what I tell people is get out of the hospital, because they're just going to make you sicker and sicker and sicker.
This is what I mean. What if the situation, because this is the situation, you get out of the hospital and you're running about crazy in the house in the middle of the night, and you're extremely happy one minute, extremely sad, and you're too much for the parents. What can they do? They can educate themselves, but what can they take from an education that they could do to help their family member? Yeah,
well, there are lots of, there are, I had to look for, are there any circumstances when medication is called for? And, if a person is in a situation where they are going to be violent to themselves or to others, a mild sedative for a period of time. But most people who are in that state will actually say to you that they would prefer a padded room than antipsychotic, for instance. Yeah. But guess what? They got rid of all the padded rooms. They don't exist anymore. The solution, there is no short-term solution. The long-term solution is to create healing centers where people can actually come, because it's the thing also in the sort of anti-meds movement and the people coming off medication, all desperately screaming out that they want somewhere to go and be around people who understand. Because one of the things I needed when I was coming off, so I came off 11 medications, the thing I needed was to just be allowed to be however I wanted to be. If I wanted to run around screaming in the house, then people needed to let me do that. If I wanted to jump in a river naked that was freezing cold, because I found wild water swimming to be one of the most healing things I've done, then I needed to do that. If I wanted to just lie on the sofa covered in blankets and ice packs and heat packs, listening to nature DVDs, then I needed that. I needed people to just let me be and not put any kind of pressure on me. So I kind of know what needs to be done with these people. And I can help. I can talk to people, and I do. But like I said to you just before, it's whether people are prepared to hear me. You're not an expert. You're not a doctor. You're not a psychiatrist. What do you know? Yeah, I think that's fantastic information, Helena. And I'm trying to get to Cristiano here, because he'll be climbing the walls himself, about to go crazy waiting to talk about OPPT. Are you offering like a service or something now where people can contact you and you can help on a sort of one-to-one basis? I give everything I know away for free. Everything. I'm a therapist, and I haven't worked for 2 years, but I don't see why anyone should have to pay. Well, it would be a matter of sustainability, though, wouldn't it? Because you couldn't sustain yourself if you can't. I've been flat out, John. I've been absolutely flat out supporting people, because there are people who are killing themselves left, right, and centre. I do what I can, and eventually, I'm trying to put together my book, kind of PDF book, for free, so that I don't have to repeat myself over and over and over. And I put all the information in there, everything I did to recover. And where could people find that PDF when it's complete? Just so, because people will be watching the recording as well, so it'd be good if we can leave some information in the recording so they can maybe I'll publish it myself, I guess. Look me up on Facebook. Yeah, Helena Button on Facebook. Okay. I know Luke wants to add something about healing as well, but before I do that, can I ask everyone in the group then, do they have any questions so far
towards Helena or to Luke about what's been said so far, and then we'll bring in Luke to say what he feels he can do to help with the healing, and then we can get on to Cristiano. Has anyone got any questions for Luke or Helena? No. Okay, cool. So Luke, you said that you could add something slightly to. You want to go ahead and do that before we bring on Cristiano?
Yeah, so in terms of another solution, as part of the long-term solution to anyone that might find themselves in a mental ward, a psychiatric ward, or with mental issues, not only it can take a bit of time for these healing centers to pop up around different cities or around the world, but there's always a solution no matter what. There's many different healers and facilitators in all these different countries. I've been building the last 2 years in Mallorca, connecting community together, open-minded people together. We're doing big events here to connect healers and facilitators together. And we're doing events with 15 different modalities, whether it's psychology, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's plant medicines, whether it's somatic approach, whether it's breath work. There's so many different tools out there. And I'll also include a link as part of the video. So if anyone wants to check any of these healing modalities, if anyone wants to ever reach out at any point, it's already there. But usually the answer is always staring us in the face, but we can't see it until somebody brings that awareness to us, or we get put into contact with somebody else that has more knowledge around the area. So that's something I'm also passionate about, is giving people the knowledge and the access to get to the root and to heal beyond everything and to become free from any suffering within your mind, which I was able to do myself. And I'm here to also help people and put that knowledge across as well.
And look, for the people that are here now, look, where could they find you and the information that you do? Any kind of websites, anything? You know, we'll have some links on the video as well. But you know, what could you share right now?
So I have my personal page with many different links on it, which is linktr.ee/Luke Calladine. I'm creating a website called connecthealers.com, which will be soon open, and this is to literally promote and get all the different healers out there and show all the different options. And you can also find Connect to Heal on Facebook as well. So
connecthealers.com and Connect to Heal on Facebook. And yeah, the link, maybe you should leave that in the comments so that the guys can see that. Okay. Anyone any questions then before we move on to the OPPT? Cristiano, my apologies for your long wait, my friend. But yeah, welcome into the Zoom call finally. I hope you've got some time still left to talk. So after everything that we've spoken about, right, what Cristiano is doing along with his colleagues, I should say, that they are pioneers. I would say personally, maybe I could be wrong, right? But I would say they're pioneers in this space, where they are removing the name. I'm sure Cristiano is going to give a better example. Removing the name from the system and creating a new name that you own under common law, where you can create your own passport, your own license, your own registration plates, all legal, all done with insurance and everything else, and a certain system then that you can live under that can protect you from going through these different types of scenarios like Luke has been through and Helena has been through. Cristiano, welcome to the meeting. Do you want to give a little bit of background about yourself, who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, John, thank you for having me here, and big hug to you, Luke. I hope you better. The situation is getting better because the time for this kind of situation is the only medicine. About what we spoke until now, the audio, my audio is well. My sound is good. Okay. What we can say? Speaking about the ones of the things could be never ending. Said, because every situation is singular, every situation is catastrophic, because we know we know if we do a little research that psychiatric medicine, progress research, all the stuff made in the last 200 years are getting worse to the life, not better. After 100 years, 200 years of progress, after the 19th and 18th century, we arrived to the point of today. Okay, if we see the big shape of the moment, the epochal, the age, we are in a specific period of the earthly life. So in the Kali Yuga, blah, blah, this is the end of the point, because we are arrived to a decadence level unstoppable. Now it's possible to speak, to have a connection, a dialogue, exchange of information with who is still in the abstract world. We have to know for ourselves, we, the few people still connected with God, the universe, a bit of logic, because the other are lost completely in the virtual abstract illusory world made by television, school system, the famous expert. They continues to lie after lie. Everything is made in Hollywood or similar, now with the computer graphica more yet. And we have just to study about the principles of the things. If you want to know the roots of the things important for our life, we have to know the basic of the food, what is the time, what is this place, where we are born in, what is the system into where we born, because everything is customized, everything is normal, everything is tradition, and nobody know what was in the origin. We are believe, we are trusting, we have to follow the flocks because everybody do it. If the 20% of humanity is still with thoughts like us, and maybe will not be involved in the said impossible to avoid and in a bad situation, because or you go in jail, or you go in the psychiatric ward, or you go in a psychomedicine for all your life, and you continue to have a fake life, maybe in the office, maybe in the factory. Then after the retirement, you go crazy, like everybody around 70, 60, 80 years. The people is normal to be sick, crazy, and die in a structure for elderly. Terrible. Also, with the religious, spiritual side of this world, I don't want to neither start to speak, because is the base, is the metadata of the real life we can touch and see. But all we can see physically, in the physical world, there is the root, the astral world. So you can imagine how many rituals, black magic, and symbolism is used to keep stand up this madhouse in open sky called humanity, at least today. So we have to know better what we are, where we are, and what we need to survive, or maybe move away from this terrible place. The statistics, the numbers are clear. The decadence is getting worse year after year, but since the 1763, so 300 years almost. If we want to try to save ourselves, we have to know a lot of things, so we can care about ourselves. Speak about tools, because there is a lot of rules, tools, knowledge to to be absorbed in homeopathic way by us, because can't be absorbed this knowledge about a bit of everything. I call this knowledge syncretism. You have no a bit of everything, because every place you move, you work, when you're living, you have to know where you are, because the people around you are 8 times 10 member of the system, because they believe, they think to be part of the good one. They think do the best for the life, for the children, for the nature. Okay, they are completely crazy, but in a world where the percent of people is crazy, and the evidence is here, because look the world, you, member of the 20%, is a statistic that 20% of humanity it's still sane, the other is completely lost, but they much more. And in a world where everybody are crazy, if you are sane, you have a problem, because if you are too mad, you are not like them. And this kind of humanity is scared by who is like the mass, like them. They created the system over system, from religious, from the legal system, from the social system, everywhere. If you don't conformize yourself, you'll become a clone. If you don't become a clone, you are a bug of the system. So, tools, big tools, big events, like, for example, but not only, the OPPT action of the 2012, created a precedent where we compare every time we speak about our different status into the system, because we have to be, first of all, nor with the active contracts with the system, because in contract with the system, baptism, citizenship, working regulations, nationals, all the contracts we are in asking is resulting, we ask that services. We, under the system, we involve ourselves into dynamics. We have to know well what this dynamics means. Nobody never let me have a brochure depliant, a copy contract of the baptism, of the citizenship. I speak about this too because the origin of everything, before they find in the astral world with the baptism. And not only the Roman Church, everybody, also cults, the Satanists, the good aliens, everywhere there is cults, they use hands, they wet, they use the water, the rituals, they do metaphysic contracts where the individual involved, the individual often is a child. The citizenship the same, when you are involved in a contract all lifelong and you have nothing to read. For example, I'm here in UK, nothing never let me have regulations, the rule, where is the book, the instruction books for stay here? There is, and everything is, you have to follow the others. No, this is not a way to go in the hive. I want to know well, so I started to study, I discovered the common law, the Magna Carta, I arrived to know also PPT. I connected the points with the knowledge because I studied this stuff about the international rights 9 years, and from since 2018 I started to practice, so almost 5 years. I never had a problem because my way to operate is coming from I coming from a really spiritual life. 13 years ago, I switched down my life because in here I was 30 years old. I was a very enviable man. I left that world to find myself, and then I started to do 5-6 years of eremitism, contemplative, and the purifying. I decided to create the My Spirit Can, a holistic structure where we help people in spiritual way, alimentation, depuration, mental problems, paranormal, so-called problems, but there is thing of paranormal. And now by 6 months, we created also an office of international consulting, because these are requests never ending, and there isn't an office like this in the world from what we discovered. There isn't. We have to help the people at least self-determinated, declared, because if you have self-determinate but nobody knows the system in their list continues to consider you one of them, if for them you are in their team, you are subject to that contract. This is probably what's happened to Luke, because when you want to speak about natural law, rights, human rights, I'm a man alive, you have previously send to the system offices, so City of London, Vatican, Washington DC, the place where you're born, the place where you live, the place where you have maybe some property or commerce. Everybody have to know you changed your status, you have to update. So after this, communicate to everybody where nobody will never reply, because silent assent, what they have to do, you decided it's possible to do for international law. You can self-declare you something of real. So if I declare I'm alive, I'm free, not a criminal, if it's real, I'm alive, I'm a man, I'm not a criminal, good, because it's not legal. True that you are alive. Legally, you are just a number, because when you've been when they created the citizenship on you and you was a child, also the Baptist, they created a number, an object under the UCC law. So you became a tool, an object owned by a corporation created you. The UK corporation created Luke is grown, like thinking to be a guy, thinking to be alive, thinking to be free, walking around the world. Never asked because have to use the passport, never asked about why the bureaucracy, why the name wrote in a different way sometime, the name all capital, the name alternate sometime, a lot of strange mix. We have to think about these details, because when we arrive in the Premier League of the skills to survive in this place, this place is not funny, pink and easy and modern and civil like the television or the propaganda want to let us see. It's a mad camp. If you're wrong action, you can finish in a big shit and have a problem, money, economic, physical. They can treat you in a psychiatric way, and you can be damaged really deeply, because this kind of action destroy your body, your mind, your spirit, and so your money. Because then if you work, you can lose the work, you can lose your partner, you lose your family. Could be a chain reason for why people in this situation are left alone. The people are alone. Nobody can help you because nobody done nothing. When I was in my struggle, empty inside, also I was rich, young, 13 years ago, and I was feeling emptiness inside, the black, how is the Freud, the Jung definition?
A void.
The long night of soul, the deep night, I don't remember now. I was in that situation, and I tried to ask to speak about this suffering with my parents, with my friend, everybody. Change the world, take another car, take a drunk, take the pills. Take the pills. I start to take psychopharmacs pills when I'm 30s because the life is this. No, thanks. When I realized that nobody can understand me, and nobody also, if they want, they can help me. But the problem is that they don't realize what I'm feeling, what is the risk to walk and to leave this place. If they finish in these problems, I die in these problems. I survived, but I realized that I was alone. So I saved myself with life, with my herbs. I said to everybody, okay, now I'm past everything. I'm okay. I'm very happy. It was just a moment. And I started to create a plan to escape from this world, from that world. After 2 years, I left I left the job, the car, I changed home. Then I tell to everybody, I have to live in America because I found another job better. Now they asked me, another job, okay, because if I was telling them I left everything because I want to escape from this cage of crazy people, they can't understand. I've been 5 years in a countryside home, close, is my current Italian home, Italic home. So I recovered my spiritual, physical, and mental. I healed my wounds, external, because little or big, everybody of us have a traumas. So after I've been really in America, in Africa, in France, I worked, I traveled 2 years. Then I back and I created my spirit can. But first of all, first point, find yourself, realize who you are, because as Luke said, if you think to be the name, the role, if you are just a citizen of UK, a son of John Doe, or a man, a guy, a number, a legal fiction, the system can continue to attack you if you're wrong, if you forget what you are. So you have to really have click in the mind and realize everything have a sense, because absurdly everything have a sense. The creation of the legal system, the juridical fiction, also the system of the jail hospitals is mad, is crazy, but there is a sense if you start from the beginning, because humanity is a not natural life form in this place, and the high levels of this pyramid of power is not made by human, is clear from what I can see in the history book and in the real proof evidence made by individual researcher. But without speak about border science, also training in the context of the common means tips, we have to understand that the contract citizenship made expressively for our request, made ourselves owned by a company. When you are part of a factory, because you are an employee and you don't born employee, you are born free, then you ask to be employed, they are good, they allow you to become a part of because the citizenship is given, is not automatic. You have to you have to ask, like the injection of these last 3 years. In the stuff you sign, is result that you asked, you waited, you paid. So also for the esoteric world, if you ask 1, 2, 3 times and then you receive, you can't complain. I didn't ask about the baptism of the citizenship. I deleted from the origin this contract, because this contract was made without my consent, because I was a child. Different is if you do contract wise when you think to know what you want. For example, you became member of a secret society, masonry, or when you became a military, you have to give out the other place to be involved in reality to become part of the hierarchy. Like for example, in legions, you have to die. Metaphorically, you have to die and reborn. There is a ritual. You have another name, also in a religious system. In fact, or through a oath or through a ritual, you became another one. You are no more natural like the people after the job. Are not biologic, are no more original, are no more natural. They are became something GMO. And now this GMO is being made by someone else. So someone else now is the owner of these people. These people, if they want to be self-determinated, they can't, because they are no more natural. They are accepted a contract by the new contracts, because after 99 years, all the contracts are expire, and they have to renew. How renew? Create a big distraction, made a fake
virus. Fake virus.
Yeah, made a big distraction, create a fake way out to escape from this fake situation. The people, everybody ran in the only two doors open created by the system, and the people choose to go or in way or in another. Like when you go to vote, you can vote right, the left, the middle, every time you vote the Masonry, because the system is like in the supermarket. The same factory put you 3, 4, 5 different kind of pasta, food, chips behind the main home. Are coming, all the food is coming from the same warehouse, but you think to choose. Oh, now the illusion of choosing, you know, if voting or tell what you want could be useful, they have an impact in the real world. Them, they'll never let you do. So there is a fake freedom sensation, but in reality, the world is always worst. So you have to know what you want. Is difficult to know what you want. Because think
this isn't the first time they've done this virus thing before as well. About 100 years ago, they did exactly the same thing where people were wearing masks and they were doing on the vaccines, and they're saying they cured this and they cured that. I question every pandemic in history now. But when they put these vaccines into the people's bodies, they patented the nanotechnology that's within it. And so when it's integrating with the body, then they claim the patent within the body. So it makes perfect sense in that respect that they're renewing a contract. But let me get a little bit more to the point here, Cristiano, because the people watching and the people are going to see the recording, it's very, very interesting to hear what you're touching on in some certain aspects. I'm sure that I'd love to go into more detail, more on an off call, in regards to, you know, being alien to this world, if you like, etc. And the world beyond what we can see. But you mentioned that basically you have deleted the account of your name, Cristiano. You no longer exist in the system. You probably don't have a passport anymore. You probably don't have a license that everybody normally would be able to recognize. And so where do you fit in the world and society? Where is, you know, what kind of status do you have? Where is your name based, and who own, you know, I'm struggling to understand it because I haven't had the time to research OPPT myself yet. But you know, where does the status come from? You know, who's going to issue you the passport, for example? You know, who's issuing you a license? How does it work?
It's important in the life how right now, like the bad people, often the officers, the members of the system, when they are recognized the author of some crime, they are covered, protected by the system, you know, obviously, because they are working for them. So also if officially, technically, they have to be eliminated, they at the end of the games escape. You too have to have a good relation, strong friendship and knowledge. So you have to be declared free, declared self-determinated, declared in honor, because you communicate your status with everybody. I don't need anymore the services of the corporation, UK, Italy, what you have. You give back. I don't need anymore to be managed by these institutions. and the parastat after, because, for example, the NHS, it's statal, but probably because are boxing to other box, like the Chinese Trioska box. So technically they are corporation, they are national, they are private. It's a mess. If you want to take someone for a crime, you don't know where to go, because so to speak time about the principles. Okay, I'm a contemplative philosophist, so maybe I'm really away from the normal life, but be in the real one, where there is the roots of the things, is the best way to be fucked. Is like stay close to the wall, nobody can fuck your ass. For me, from the Francis way to, but this is clear, because if you say, okay, this is the of today, this is the origin of everything. If you stay in the middle, or play with the rules of the today game, the world, you are destined to lose. You can't win against the system with rules. Also, you can rarely you can win to play with some rules before of the system. You have to back in the knowledge, the research to the origin of the use that. We, ancestral, real, deeply radical sovereign, we use medieval Roman Empire, previously laws, still operative, still active. We take that and we use the system can say nothing, because they don't know, they just know, the professionist people, they use rules of today, and they are living well, good money, and they fuck the people every day because it's their job, just because the police can't. So before of all, have to know what we are, where we are, start to learn the rules. The main things are OPPT, the fraud of the legal name, the baptism fraud too, and how the creation of the money happens, because the money are the tool for do everything in this world. You have to know from what is coming, from where is coming this colored paper. So money, jurisdictions, contracts, and you, with these 3-4 steps, you can start with a strong new life. Detach the old contracts, create and declare the new ones, use the tools, so it will be easy, because it's easy, clear. With the declaration order, you can stop for the moment all the situation, for the moment. But then it's not enough. Then you have to know the common law, you have to know who you are, from where you come, and obviously if I go in North Korea and I want to be recognized free and independent because I have as I have common law passport, the common law Scotland passport, I can do, but just in the way, in the roads, with one of them all time with me, they want I go, because I am in that situation into the creation of someone else. When you go into the creation of someone else, you have to accept their rules. If I stay in my world, I have my land, I declared what I am here, like here in the philosophical school. Nobody never did in 4 years. But I'm a foreign. I'm a self-determined extremist. I'm a philosophical crazy one. I don't know. Maybe I'm lucky. He has never arrived. I don't pay my tax. I drive my car. I have the ownership of my car. I'm under the common law staff. I have a relation with the people of the Scotland. We're growing. And personally, I use all the tools, information I can achieve everywhere. In this way, every situation could be detriggered. There is 3 things in this world of action you can do. There is what you can do. what you do but should not have to do, and what is forbidden to. What is forbidden to do, system, the people, also my neighbors, sometimes if nobody see, they do. All what is criminal to do, but the people do if nobody see. What is possible to do is made everybody. What they can do, but they should haven't to do, is the halfway. This halfway should have been the normality. So when you are outside our world, because I'm here in a safe place, but if I go out my home, my door, I am in the shared world. Into the shared world, I have to adapt myself to harmonic. To don't be, if I go in Arabic place, in a Muslim world, I dress like them, I respect what I think, but I continue to be myself. And if I am harmonic, declared before what I am, why I'm there, and for how long time, they are very open and friendly, because I enjoy from the best side of them. If I go there, in their place, in their creation, where is their common law is probably really religious, because in the Muslim world there is the Sharia. It's not the civil world, is civil law or law. There is the Sharia. So they have a rules system religious, like in Israel. So they are very crazy. But I have to analyze. For me is the key to find the best side of the people, of the situation, of the best time. And in conclusion, you have to restore completely your condition, because every one of us started by a condition not neutral, not natural, under. We are enslaved with habits, sick, with bad food, called the normal food. So we are also conditioned a lot of things. We think about the existence of God, like God from the television or religion, and is a distortion. The food, the healthiness, the love, the cost of family, the time. We think the time is linear. No, the time is circular, is spiraliform. So we have to refresh all our to reborn, and when you do a big step, because not doing, you can self-determinate yourself, declare to body. Use you have to use the fictitious names, interaction with the world, because if you want to be extremist, I'm a free spirit, embodied, I'm a man alive, and have nothing to support practically with the people of the system. Because if you want extremist, from tomorrow you can go in the wood and I will ask you nothing. But if you want to take a plane, a train, have a job, buy a home, you have to communicate. Communication is the main, first, basic thing you have to do, to use when you have a relation with the others. 8 times on 10, the other side, there is a common individual believing in the politicians, in religion, in the science, in the television. So you have to speak them, as I spoke in 30 minutes with you. No, you can explain then believing into the Truman Show. Speak with them easily, fast, and this is our kind of trained, self-determined documents, where we declare what we are, what we are doing, what they can do. They have to just accept, choose the option we give to them. The problem with the people ignorant, they don't know nothing. They need the instruction of the office, the desk people. They meet every time they have to do something, and accept their addiction, because in the world, also the esoteric, but also in the normal world, if you ask what you receive, if you accept what they give you after you asked, you have to accept. If I ask to work in your factory, I can't after 1 month start to complain, to create a riot, to be bad. Fuck off, walk away. It's ammutinament, how is? It's considered sedizione, sediment. Vabbè, I don't know. You are a rebel, and now I don't remember the word. Sedizione is in Italian. Vabbè, anyway, you are a rebel because you asked for a contract. You had the contract, and then when you are into the contract, you don't want to accept anymore the rules of the contract. This is the reason for what the people with the citizenship until yesterday, now they speak to be free. But if you then delete maybe from the origin better contract, they are still active. So if they check who you are, they see you are still in our team, so we can manage you. Sedition. If, because didn't do this determination. Look, it's like another country without no language. Okay, in the logic way, it's empty, so nobody's in this home from 20 years, I can go, yeah, but the energy, the common law, the constitute of the people in the place, so they scared, there was a foreigner, is not speaking our language, maybe he's a drugged, maybe he's a satanist, maybe he's a terrorist, people is scared by 300 years of bullshit, so they are scared. The people is scared. The people do the worst things. The witch hunt, the Inquisition, the craziness of last 3 years. So communicate, speak clear, have a relation clear with the entity you are speaking to. Otherwise, they will use their knowledge not complete if they are scared or if they want to attack you against you. And so they will start to say, Mr. Luke, you didn't answer to our question who you are, tell me your name. Okay, maybe so, because you have to declare every time who you are. Why you are different from the others, and this is the main things you can't do. You can't do. You can say I am from this moment man alive, but until 10 seconds ago I was still normal. No, you have to declare your self-determination months, weeks before. Then, after the declaration officially in the worldwide, because Washington DC, City of London, place where you're born, Vatican, place where you are, place where you work, where you live, everybody have to know. Then, silence assents, certificated mail can be an evidence you declared, so everybody have to know. Also for the UCC 103, yeah, the 103 code, when you communicate, what is communicated to the agent have to be communicated to the directors. So they can't say or reply, no, you are not what you are telling in this moment. The juice of this fact is that when you have to deal with an agent, you have to previously already spoke with the agent, high level. So you can say to the agent, I spoke and communicated already with your bosses. If for them I was okay, why you are stopping me or asking me? I'm this one. You can't deny I'm this one, because what you can read in this paper in my hand now is also being communicated months, years, weeks ago to your bosses in all the world. Nobody told me nothing. Why you are stopping me? They will say, okay, sorry, now it's okay. Maybe after some control, but the important things is to don't getting out the worst side of themselves through the fear or through the what they call you became agitated, you was out of control, so we had to suppress you, to jab you because you was hysteric. No, never shout, always be noble. We have to be noble in knowledge of our rights and also know where we are, because if I do what I'm doing here is a thing, if I go in Italy is a thing, if I go in Russia is another thing. So also I have to know the rules, the system, the traditions of the place where I am. If I go in Spain, there is a kingdom, there is another regulation, there is a civil law, that there isn't what there is in UK. So the problem is always this misunderstanding. Then when the system start to go, it's difficult to stop. So when the things happens, you come back and change the past. You can just work today for never let happen again what it's happened. Because when the bad situation are happened, I come back to the nuns who did an abuse on me when I was in the school 20 years ago. Also, if I discover it's late, I lost the train, I have to work to never let happen again this stuff. Lucia, want to tell something you too about that?
Thank you, Cristiano. Yeah, I was raising my hand, but I was actually very interested about what you all said. So I really wanted to hear it through. So just, you know, to tell you a couple of words before I start, actually, I've been invited by Cristiano, and I was very much triggered by the topic of this Zoom. And I really thank Luke and Elena for their really brave witnessing. And actually, I'm currently facilitating, I've initiated and facilitated an OPPT France group because I'm based in France and I'm self-determined person, I mean, and soul, because eventually when you start to be self-determined through OPPT, you don't call yourself a person anymore, you call yourself a soul or a living man, free and self-determined. And quite recently, actually, I don't have that long experience as Cristiano, but I kind of have a few experiences. So basically, analyzing the experience of Luke in particular, but it can be kind of related also to the experience of Elena. Basically, everything starts, and from the first document that you start to sign in, I mean, with the OPPT, you realize that everything starts with the knowledge about yourself and the awareness about yourself, but not only yourself, as a man and living man and self-determined. So in another jurisdiction, which is the natural law and which are basically the universal laws, but it's also about the awareness of the others and where the others stand with a kind of empathy, recognizing basically in the others yourself as you were basically months before you even got to know who you really were. So this is the real principle basically of OPPT. And if you read the Declaration of I Am, you would really realize that, you know, it's kind of really understanding that you are sort of eternal essence, which is one with the total creation, and that it's materializing and embodied in a particular body, which is yourself, but it's kind of one with the rest of the world. So you start to see also the world in a very different way. It's not like yourself separated from the others or separated from the agents who try to harass you or trying to make your life complicated, or they want to put you in a psychiatric ward. You start to see them as kind of facilitating your experience eventually in this particular life and in this particular embodiment, because you are evolving. Your experience here is actually to make you evolve, and you are getting exactly what you need to evolve, so that your soul will learn what needs to be learned eventually to pass on, and to pass it on in this world, in this life, but also in next lives. So it's a bit of a much wider topic here. It's not just about judicial aspects or jurisdiction. It's not just about legal. It goes very much beyond that. So that's what I wanted to say. And basically, if you look at the logo of OPPT, there are some words which are really key to this new governance, because it's kind of new governance which has been really initiated. And one of them is integrity. And the second one is transparency. So if we look at this principle and we analyze basically the experience of Luke, he has been acting according to what he was feeling. It was true at that time, but he didn't respect the other party free will. And in this case, also Cristiano mentioned that you have to notify the people you are basically getting in touch to, because you have to respect their free will, and they have to be kind of put in a position to recognize yours. Because if you do that in the very moment, and that when you do that also, you know, without much preparation, often emotions go up, then indeed, I mean, other emotions and energies are starting to basically drive in, and your own, let's say, coolness and your own centered, you know, soul will basically get distracted by something else and by all these other emotions that goes in. So that's very much important that you are aware that when you play into natural law, you have to respect the other's free will. And in order to do so, you have to let them know who you are. So it's very important even to identify yourself. It's not that you have to give your family name. This is not about that. It's about providing a document that, even it's self-made document, like in Universal Pass, which is a self-made. I'm going around with a self-made document. It's just the Universal Pass. I'm not using CLC for the moment, although I have that, although I had a passport. But I did go to UK and back to France with only my Universal Pass and my national passport. But basically, when I was triggered, because I stayed 2 hours and a half with the policeman, and eventually, you know, I had very, very lovely and very peaceful exchanges with these people. They always try to treat you. They always, ask you questions, and they try, for instance, I had also a question like, are you taking any medicine? Because if you are here in the world, then we need to be aware if you need to take your medicine. And yes, and I was just smiling at them and said, no, thank you for caring, but no, I don't take any medicine. And when they were asking questions, I was like, okay, I understand you are very curious about my life. And if you want to talk and have a chat, we could have it. So I'm going to answer to the man and not to the agent. Is it okay? Mm. And to another person, you mentioned because in this case, they are persons, they are playing a role. So, and to this other agent who was trying, like, you know, he was very aggressive to me and he was asking me questions. I said, you know what, let's do so. I will answer to the man who has fear. And I don't want you to feel uncomfortable in front of me. So I'm going to answer your questions. So you start to, you know, to work in a pedagogic way, explaining what you need to explain, but realizing the other person's and the other soul's emotion, because behind that person, there's a soul, there's a kind of individual who has his own needs at that moment and his own emotions. And if you don't recognize that, then you get into conflict because he's in fear. And when you are in fear, you panic, you don't see anything else, you know, and you have to realize that these agents on the other side don't know law. They really don't know anything about law. They know about procedure. So if basically what is happening in front of them, it's not procedural, it's not respecting the right procedural steps, you know, they are getting blacked out. Oh my God, so what are we going to do? And this puts them in a very uncomfortable situation. So it's your role in that case to put them back into a comfortable position, so you don't give them any room to think that they should be fearful or they should be feeling aggressed or you know, that you are dangerous to them or dangerous to society or whatever they think. That you are a very peaceful individual that is just aware of who he is or her, she is, whatever, and then wants to live her own life by her own free will. And that's it. And actually, I spent 2 hours and a half explaining about OPPT, and they were coming to me and like, okay, in your document, everything is in small characters. It's not your name between the two, and we don't understand it.
Lucia, we lost the last.
And why do you say you're not a person? And I.
Lucia, your signal is going.
Sorry,
we lost
thank you, Cristiano.
the last 2 seconds.
So basically, they were.
Yeah, the last thing that you
Do
said.
you hear me?
The document that you created, that you were talking about a document, and then we kind of lost you there.
Okay. So do you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So basically they were asking a lot of questions like, okay, what's the difference between your, a normal document like a possible passport and this passport and this document that you provided to us, Why, if you write it in small letters, it's different than if you write in capital letters? Or why don't you want to be named as a person? I touch you. He was telling me, I touch you, so you are a person. And I said, no, it's because you touch me that I'm not a person, and I'm a living woman, And this is the fine thing. And I explained in juridical terms, when you say about a person is normally a physical person. It's a construct. It's a construct that the moral persons, your governments, need in order to rule over them, over us. Because if they don't communicate with the person, they cannot communicate anyway with the living man. So I really made pedagogy, and there was especially one police lady who was really listening through, as she was asking questions. And when I got out of there, because in the end they were really like, really, we are very interested about all this, and we really like you, but we really need like a document that we can recognize because you are going outside Schengen. And if you were in Europe, probably you would have passed, but you're going outside Schengen. And I said, okay, come on, I'm gonna, I can show you my passport, but please remember that I'm not that judicial fiction, and I'm not basically that person on that document. This document is not valid. The valid one is my universal pass. So if you want to use it for your own purposes, just to take a number, fair enough. But I don't want you to verbalize that. I don't want to write down basically the code. And I don't want you to use for any other purpose than just making me pass to the other side. And they were like, okay, we promise. And so they did. And they came. There were nine policemen. They went all the way back and forth, to ask me questions, to say hi to me, to bye to me. They came all 9. And the lady who was standing there, she was even thanking me, like, okay, there's always something to learn. Mm-hmm. So it was very special. It took me 2 hours and a half. I'm not going to do that every time, obviously. But it was very special because energies kept always very low. And sometimes, they were like trying to put me fear, like, we are going to keep you 4 hours and then you're going to be moved there, etc., etc. And this is where another thing plays in. I knew exactly their jurisdiction and their codes, their civil codes, and what they could ask me for their French law. So this was playing eventually in my favor, because when they said, we can keep you 4 hours here and then you can go to the other side, I said, no, not even with your jurisdiction. You cannot do it with mine, but you cannot do it even with your jurisdiction, because I provide you identification. They don't need, actually, it's not nowhere written that identification is only through a passport or through an identity card. Identification is something, it's a document, and they can even call you a parent or a relative, whatever, to confirm who you are. So if you can provide identification, even if you don't have a document, but you can provide identification, they cannot keep you. They cannot detain you. So I told them, and they were going. Every time I had the answer, and they were going away, and another one was coming with another question, you know. But it was all that, you know. So you need to be aware with whom you are playing, because if you don't know the other side, how can you deal with them? You cannot. So that's a bit the logic behind. And another thing, which, yeah?
Can I ask a question? Yeah, a couple of questions. Firstly, let me play the sort of pessimistic devil's advocate here a little bit, right? Because you have a lot of people asking questions, you know, why would anyone go through the TD? I wouldn't even say it's tedious. I find OPPT fascinating, you know. I found a little bit of time to dive into it, and I got lost in it, and I was dying to really, but then I got lost in other things, but I need to go back into it. Anyway, the question might arise, why would someone dive into the space of OPPT if they can't use a common law passport to cross the barriers, and at the end, they would probably be denied entry into another country if they didn't have the real passport that they recognise? What would be the point, you know, from a pessimistic view?
Okay, I don't see any pessimism in there, in the sense that, what's your current status? What if you don't self-determine yourself? What's your life today? Do you really feel free, and do you really feel safe? I guess if you are looking for an answer, probably no.
Well, I'd say yes and no. I would say I feel free, safe, not entirely. I just basically, you know, whenever I get dragged through the courts, I do play the game of natural law. I say that I'm a natural sovereign individual. I don't identify as a person. I am here to represent the dead legal entity, just for the basis and the simplicity and of working with the system. Because at the end of the day, in theory, the system is supposed to be there for me. I pay them, they work for me, they provide a service for me. And so I've recognized that power, that I am the boss, I am the authority, I'm the one who authorizes things. And so you play by my rules, I'm not going to play by your rules, because we are the people, we are the power, and we decide how things work. At the same time, I know that the risks that we're under and the sort of games that they can play, or the legal legislation and jurisdiction that I couldn't possibly understand. I couldn't understand it if I spent a lifetime looking into it. There's too much information there. And so I don't, so the way that I view it basically is I didn't consent to any of this. I had a birth certificate at birth, and I was a baby, and you know, that you can't possibly have my consent, so it can't possibly be legal. And so the basis is that you provide a service for me. And so I'll decide if I employ that service or if I do not. But of course, I understand there's deeper levels through OPPT that I can take more power back. But that's my current status, basically. And that's why I'm fascinated to learn more about OPPT and how I can use it to my benefit. But then that's why I ask questions like that. You know, if a common law passport, I mean, who even issues a common law passport? Well, who would give it to you? Who governs it? What would be the point of having one if it doesn't work to cross a barrier? You know, I'm not cross pessimistic. You know, I'm fascinated. I want to know. I want to learn how it works. But these are the kind of common questions that you would get asked, I would assume.
You cannot play a game without knowing the rules of the game.
True.
So that's a bit the thing. That's maybe what Cristiano also mentioned to you. You know, we are living in a world, but life itself is commerce. And when I mean commerce, it's exchange. We are exchanging daily energies, goods, our life itself. You know, so basically this whole world and the whole legislation that we are running is commerce. And whenever you are in front of agents, whenever you are in front of one single individual, you are in commerce with certain conditions. And you know to master these conditions in order to free yourself. there cannot be freedom, real freedom, without knowledge. The thing is that it's not, and also when you say, you know, you play under my rule to anybody in front of you, you know, because I'm sovereign, etc. It's not exactly that. You're not playing by your rule. You're playing by the rule of natural law, and this is a law that works for everybody. And that's the thing, it's hierarchies, you know, of jurisdictions. What do you have? You have, oh, maybe my connection is going away. Hello?
Yeah,
Is it okay? Do you hear me? Ah, okay.
Yeah. Let me,
so if you look, okay. So if you look at the jurisdiction of laws, what do you have? On the very top, you have the universal laws. And this is basically all laws that are self-evident, you know, like cause effect, or the law of correspondence, or the law of freedom. There are seven of these laws, and you need to know what these are, because they are playing without even you know on your own life. Anything you do is working upon these universal laws. And whenever you're not aware of these universal laws, somehow something is going wrong in your life, either in this life or in the next, because you build up your experience, and you determine the next step of your experience. So this is something you need to be aware. Second is, in this jurisdiction, in this pyramid, there's a natural law. And natural law wants that you can experience anything in this life and in this body, respecting your own free will and the free will of the other. The free will of the other is your borderline. So even when you are playing with an agent, you cannot oblige them to do something to you, or you cannot avoid that if they want to abuse you, they would do that, because somehow it's, how can I say, you can try to defend yourself, and obviously you need to deny consent, but it's kind of their free will. And that we are all here to make these experiences, and they're all playing a role in each other. We all play a role in each other's lives to make these experiences. So in this natural law, basically, you can do anything without damaging the other party. And if you interpret that in a commercial sense, there cannot be a crime if there's no damaged party. So in common law, because natural law in writings is actually common law. And in common law, it's clear that if there's no damaged party, if I didn't hurt anybody or nobody complained to what I said, I cannot be accused of any crime whatsoever.
Where there is no victim, there is no crime. That's what I said in the courts as well. Yeah, where there is no victim, there's no crime.
That's correct. So these are basically the rules of the game. And this is why, again, the free will of the other must be respected. This is why you have to notify the other person. This is why you have to clearly state what's your own free will. So deny consent. Because anytime, for instance, when I was 2.5 hours in that ward, they were asking me to check my bag. And I said, it's there. And I was like, yeah, but we cannot touch it. It's your problem. And he was like, oh, but come on, we need to make sure that there's no weapon or nothing in it. Why? Did I give you the impression that I was dangerous for you? And they couldn't answer, but it was very uncomfortable. And I said, you know what? I can open my bag to the man who is in fear. And he was like, oh, come on, but I'm at home here. So I'm not in fear. I don't have any fear. I said, well, you are, because otherwise you wouldn't ask me to check my bag. I said, but no problem. I'm going to open it. So I opened it. I took my wallet. I took my passport, because they didn't know I had my national passport with me at that moment. I took both. And normally you would never do it. Normally they would never allow you to take something, because imagine I had something in my wallet. a weapon in my wallet. But they allowed me to do it. I did it so naturally. Like I took it, and I was like this. I didn't hide it. I was like this. And it was just looking like that. He didn't touch. And he said, okay, fair enough. And I put back my stuff.
Can I add?
I took a phone call. I took a phone call while normally they were like screaming like, you cannot take a phone call. I said, it's my husband. He must be worried. So I need to take the call. And they were like, he was screaming. The lady was screaming to the other side. Can she take a call? Can she take a call? And I completely ignored her. I just took the call. And she was like, but come on, what did you say? What did you say to your husband? I don't understand Italian. That I'm talking to you. But I was very natural. And they were like, yeah, you cannot go outside. Because I said, okay, can I just go and have a walk outside? Because you're keeping me 2 hours and a half and you're checking things. And they were like, no, you cannot go. Why? Am I detained? No, you're not detained. So I can go. No, you cannot go. Why? Is it, did I do any crime? Mention a crime? No, then I can go. No, you cannot go. Why? I opened the door, I stepped outside. They were all looking at me. And then I came in again and I said, but I think we didn't finish, right? Please go ahead, Cristiano.
No, just to add something, because obviously this is my collaborator since France, and Lucia, you can see, is very skilled. We are full of these precious diamonds, and this is the seeds of the tomorrow, because we are to know and we have to have this flame inside in the eyes, because she when speak you can see maybe it's the sun reflecting in the hair, but it's the moment, everything is in the right moment. Anyway, we are the future. The old past is made by people scarred by millennia of religions, television, aliens, virus, wars. Fuck off everybody, everything doesn't exist. Exists just what you can touch. The people is into a legal system from the at least 6,000 years. The last biblical, no, the Old Testament, 6,000 years, and where the rules are about the presumptions. Everything is based on the presumptions. In fact, I posted in the group about these articles, because everywhere the people working for the system are scared. They follow the procedure, like Lucia said. They don't know nothing about nothing. They just have to do what they do every day. They think to do the right things to keep the world safe and good, but they don't know they are accomplice of what is everyday worst. But now is not a problem of philosophical stuff. Now we have to know. Everybody thinks to know something just relative to their little task. The legal system, the main system, is based on the presumptions. So they think in advance what you are, what you're doing. So when you are not like the others, so for you doesn't work the presumption, you have to declare before. Also because, as Lucia said, we have to keep them safe, relaxed. If you have to take a plane and you are sovereign or self-determination or stateless, because also the stateless is a condition. If you are coming from ex-Yugoslavia, your country doesn't exist anymore. So you are no more with a state behind of you. Better, I lost my country because I wanted it. But if you don't know that be free is a good thing, you think you need another lord. So you're looking for someone give it to you a citizenship. Okay, it's hell, it's a craziness. But if the people don't know, there is also the people still eating meat and they don't know the milk, the cheese, using the pharmaceutic shit. From the point of view of someone with an evolution rising years after years, thinking about what the people do, feed the children, watching television, in the way they live, they sleep, what they drink, it's hallucinant, but this is not the point. The point is that the people is scarable, is being raised up in the spheres. They think to be part of something of good, the humanity, the progress, the law. They have to know when they have to deal with us. We are not like the others for good reason, because we have to be relaxing. We have to show them we are competent, we are wise, we are superior, noble, not scared, no ignorant, no nervous, sick, not dressed well. We have to be all time relaxed. If I have to take a plane with my status, I don't go in the airport in the last moment like the normal people 4 hours before the flight. No, I go the day before. 2 weeks before the flight, I communicate with all the organs, the company, the airport, the place where I will be, where I will land, who I am, why I travel, how long we'll stay, what I accept or not accept about the restriction, because on the website I can see or ask all the restriction eventuals. And I say yes, 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 no, yes, if you confirm me something. If they answer or not answer, then you go in the airport 1 day before. You go inside, you tell to everybody. So the day of the departure, you will be recognized by all the people. You are will come tomorrow. One guy in this way is strange because he's like this, but declared, told already with the director. Is everything fine? Because there is the note, the post-it, there is already the communication, everybody knows. It's this human society, insective society. We are not like the animals. We are ruled by a insect society, hierarchy, a lot of people, a lot of numbers of people, all together in the same place. The animals will never do like this. This society is ruled by something, an insective mind. And if you don't want to be a reason of stress, chaos, or fear, you have to declare before, during, and maybe also after, because they have to be quiet, they have to know you. And also in future, when your name, your appellation, your subject will be known, because maybe you continue to travel, for example, France, Italy, France, they know already who you are, because then people like us are finishing, like everybody, we are everybody tracked, also the normal people, but especially us. We are in the list, they know who you are, how many times we traveled, every time what we say, reason for what we have to be in total control. We have to know better than the officer behind the desk what is this job. When we do this way to operate, we will be really superior, in charge, in our jurisdiction, because be self-determined, it means you are competent. When you transmit with the right way to communicate this quietness, this serenity, this harmony, and full of information, with all the stuff, you will go easily in all situations. I never got one troubles in my life in 5 years, and I traveled. I also got to the ferry, England, Ireland, with the universal pass. So it is not the document or the tool, is how you are, is your energy. It's a new age sentence, but is the subject, is your energy. When you are okay, harmonized, communicative, clear, competent, from the other side, can't happen nothing else that acceptation. They are gentle, they recognize, oh, interesting, every time we learn another thing. So yeah, sorry, this is your papers, thank you, finish. Instead, people maybe with all the money roll, you don't know who I am, I have the friends, blah, blah. No, if you are agitated, you just make the situation disharmonic, and then there is the consequence. Think about that. The system is based on the presumptions, and if you don't are like the presumptions include, you have to let everybody be relaxed, understanding, and discovering who you are. Otherwise, the problems, the struggles, the fears will arrive from every situation. Finish.
And
thank you, Cristiano. There's just one last thing before we close, John, but you tell me when I can mention it.
Yeah. I only had one more question as well that I wanted to ask you from before, and then you can go ahead and say that. And then I've got one more question to both of you, really, is how, I'll tell you that in a minute. Okay, so I'll take two more questions then, because for the people that are going to be watching the recording, there was the mention of the Declaration of I Am. A lot of people are not going to understand what that is. Do you want to just give a little bit of brief idea of what the Declaration of I Am is?
The Declaration of I Am, to make it a very long story short, because there's a lot of interpretations about it. I mean, for everyone, this would have sort of a different meaning, because it's who you are. So for every individual, probably there's a kind of meaning that you would give to it. But for me, and the way I interpret it, this is a bridge. This lady, I mean, this general procurer, I mean, of the United States of America, who drafted it together with two other trustees eventually, she was very brilliant, and she made the impossible possible, because she translated into something legal, into matter, really something concrete, something which is purely spiritual. So she has put in a kind of commercial terms, which are let's say the words spoken by the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Codes. She expressed something which normally you would have never imagined into matter. You know, it's the spirit, it's the eternal essence of yourself. It's anything you are here in this embodied experience and beyond that. And basically what she did, I mean, she made it legal. She really made it legal. Through this Declaration of I Am, she's telling basically that, but this is coming basically from also the Declaration and Order and all the deposit in UCC which she made. So you need to understand what's the basic of it and why in this document you are declaring yourself I am eternal essence. Because through the deposit in UCC, everything, you know, all governments, banks, and all these corporations, they have been foreclosed. And now, from that moment onwards, they belong to eternal essence. And eternal essence, into the trust configuration, is one of the trustees. Okay, so you got the trustee at the top, which is the creator. And in the Declaration of I, which is another document that Heather made, she made clear what the creator is. And it's eventually what everybody would call it God, Allah, or a primary source of everything, or a natural energy, vibration, anything, the origin of everything, okay? So she made it clear. It's not like somebody who's saying, yeah, the creator is whoever made the trust, so you are making a pact with Satan, whatever. No, it cannot be, because there's a Declaration of I, which is deposited also in UCC, which is explaining what the creator is. So in order to make a trust over all trust in the whole world, you know, starting from your birth certificate upwards, she made the trust with the own creator as a trustee. So there cannot be anybody above that, you know, it's a trust above all the others. And what did she make? So the depositories, eventually, the administrators of this trust would be the bond servants. Bond, she's using really this word, the bond servants. So they are serving through a sworn servant. Eventually, you know, they are really making a sort of statement of truth and absolute truth to the creator, that they are writing down this declaration in perfect integrity, and they made a gift of this trust to the beneficiaries, and this is the third party, which is eternal essence, and all the human beings, all the individuals, or the living men who would recognize themselves as living men and eternal essence. So it's kind of amazing what she did. I mean, to me, this lady is kind of a miracle, because she was very competent in the UCC. She was part of the elite. Actually, she was coming coming from the elites. And when she was made aware, you can pass you other documents, which are deposits at UCC, because everything started with the paradigm report that really made you understand where all these logic and all these facts, because these are facts that everything was corrupt and everything. It's not, we feel that, but she had the evidence. She really had the evidence that this was true. And in the paradigm report, she really made it written. She deposited that to the UCC, and she provided that to all governments that are under the UCC, because under UCC and under the Security Exchange Commission, there are 192 countries in the world. She made them all aware that the system was corrupt. And from that moment onwards, so she made an affidavit, so she made a legal procedure. She went up to foreclosing them, and to seize all the belongings, basically, that were wrongly assigned to these entities, like the Fed, for instance, the Federal Bank Reserve System. So that's a bit the thing, what she did. So when you do the declaration of I am, you're recognizing yourself as one of the beneficiaries of this trust. And you're recognizing yourself as above any other human jurisdiction. And when I say human jurisdiction, I mean the civil law, and I mean partly also the common law. So which common law are you looking at? You're looking at the real common law of the origins. You're not, it's a common law which is expressed through the OPPT filings, because after everything is being foreclosed, and when I say everything, I mean everything from the past is being foreclosed, everything which is standing are these OPPT filings, is the new governance, and it's the natural law. There's nothing else which exists. So this is the magic behind it. But this doesn't mean that you're not responding to any law anymore, because as I said, you work under unlimited responsibility. So when you sign your declaration of AM, you commit yourself to integrity. You commit yourself of taking responsibility for your actions and for not making damages to others, and to lawfully, because you say under natural law, to lawfully make your own experience in peace and harmony. So that's exactly what you're making over there. And you're also committing yourself to cooperative coordination with the other IAMs and the other living men and women. So you're kind of saying over there that you recognize not only yourself as an IAM, as a living man and women, but you recognize the people, one people, public trust. You recognize that anybody in this life, aware or not, because even the agents in front of you, they are not aware, but they are living men and women. They just are not aware, and they didn't notify themselves as living men and women, but they are. So you recognize yourself like one people. There's no nation, for one people. We are all in this world, and the world is, it's the border, nothing more, So there are no other borders. So this is the important thing. You self-determine yourself as individual, and you self-determine yourself as one people. And this right to the self-determination of the people is written in any other jurisdiction. So even the ones that are inferior to natural law, like for instance, the Declaration of Universal Human Rights, even there it's written, the right to self-determination of the people. If you look at the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America, or la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme here in France, in both of them, but I guess in every constitution, because even in Italian it's written, that it's the people who provide the legitimacy to the nation and to the people, and they have the right to withdraw that legitimacy, and they have the right to self-determine themselves. The Americans did that towards the crown. They determine themselves. So you're calling yourself and you are remembering who is in front of you, that you have the right to be self-determined as a man, but also as part of the people who decided to be living men and women. So this is why it's so important, because there's a very strong legal, how do you say, support in there, you know? And it's undeniable, it's self-evident, you know, you don't need to explain it much. That's important thing in there. And why it's so important that you do your papers. You cannot improvise yourself. It can be very dangerous game if you improvise yourself. You know, from when I started to read, actually like 6 months ago, I started really to practice my my sovereignty and my self-determination. I mean, in the last couple of months, you know, I really studied a lot. I read a lot of books. By the way, one very cool one, I mean, which is very, very clear and very short, so you can read it very easily. It's UCC Connection. The interviews with Freeman is very, very interesting. Or you can read eventually another book from Priolo, who is a jurist. You know, all this I can put you, we can provide you the names. But read a lot, study a lot, because this will make you aware, and you would feel so much more confident also when you talk to people, and that will give you inner peace, you know, that is just meant to be.
Yeah. Okay. Great answer, Lucia. Thank you very much for sharing that. Can you just repeat that book that you mentioned there, though, because you cut out just for a second.
UCC Connection and the interviews with Freeman.
The UCC Connection interview with Freeman. Okay, I'll put that on the link when we're finished the recording. I've got one more question to ask you. You don't have to ask it right now, though, because you wanted to input something there just after Cristiano finished. And my final question would be, you know, especially to Cristiano, because he's off on the consultant services around the OPPT concept. I know you guys have got a Telegram group, but how would you, you know, invite the world into the concept of OPPT? Would you share the Telegram? How would you share your consultant services? How can people get in contact with you guys so that they can study more and learn more about the different steps that they need to take to become self-determined and to declare themselves as living men and women?
Are you asking to me?
More so, yeah.
Because it's a way to live. You can't do a course, a training of 2 weeks or 2 months to become in knowledge expert of this stuff, because this is the real essence of the life in this place. You don't know who you are and where you are. The place where we are is big, is huge. This place is amazing, beautiful, but also dangerous. So we have to know very well our skills, empower them, our weak point, improve and protect them, because everybody of us have a good point and a weak point. We have to know ourselves how long the step we can do in the situation. So if I want to front the mayor of my town, I have something to do. If I want to attack the minister of the nation, is another, the state. Nation and states are two different things. If I want to attack the politicians, the minister of the state, even other things, I need maybe a collective action. Reason for what before I told we have to have a good relation and friendship with powerful people. I know people in the common law courts of the world, in America, with my original clan of radical, because I come in now, I'm using OPPT, I'm using the common law stuff, but my roots of knowledge are coming from the radical sovereignty way, old school, Kate of Gaia. I just say Kate of Gaia. So Gate of Gaia school teach that principles. Don't speak about what's happening after. No PPT, principles, the fraud of the legal name, end of story. There is nothing else to say. Okay, if you want to improve your knowledge about this stuff, stay on our group of Telegram. The mine are OPPT evidence and natural law. Canada, USA, international, UK. Also, French and Switzerland are our collaborators. Then, for the emergency situation, we have the Jus Naturalis legitimate consulting website. I will post all the things in this page of our group, but you already know. Because for the critical situation, we have to analyze all the details of the situations and plan a strategy, because every situation, every individual is different. So every situation have to be harmonized with knowledge, honor, and balance. Never have alteration of the situation, because the alteration of the situation is all time. When we lose the balance, all time to gain is the fear, is the tradition, is the collectivity, and the collectivity, fucking babies cry, and the collectivity is always a flock, is always ignorant, is always, no, we all time made like this, so if the situation lose the balance, is our fault. We have to avoid that, because otherwise we are involved by the energy of the environment. The energy of the environment are slow, because are very average, really slow, because the people is terrible. After the brainwashing of the school, the television, the religions, and the concept of family, my God, I love my parents, but they created me an idiot if I was continuous my life with the starting I received. Thanks God, from when I was 16, 17 years, I was a little bit introvert, I was a little smarter, I started to read a lot of stuff, absorb a lot of stuff, then I started to work when I was 17, I left the school, I didn't receive the diploma, I left. When I was 17, I started to work and to travel. I learned 4 languages in the world. I've been rich 2 times. Now I'm arrived 13 years ago to be in the top of the top, women, young, beautiful, cars, career in politics, and in the factory I was. I left everything to follow my spiritual inside. I saved myself, and after 6 years I created my spirit camp, and now after 9 years it became a place where the people can find relief from all the problematic situation the world can't solve, because the medicine can help, the spirituality can help, the legal system can help. I am the only one, the few people like me, because are very rare. I know myself and I speak for what I did live. I speak about my experience. I don't speak about things I heard or watched someone else speak about. No, I've never been in school. I teach the people that are been in school, because I am a monk. I have my life. I eating apple like a base by 3 years, 15 years of veganism, fast periods, 5 years, 13 years ago of hermitage. I'm creating 3 eco village. In our way for the future, in 2-3 years, we want to create a good situation for the people surviving to the end of this age. Not because I think the apocalypse, or I'm not a millenarist, but I have my eyes to see, and I know in the past, I know already the future. This period, I was waiting by 20 years. 13 years ago, I start to work. Now I'm safe. I'm more skilled. And I'm working already, because in the next 30 years, I want to be ready. And surely, also, if I'm here in a beautiful place in the north of England, it's very quiet, full in the countryside. Yes, but I know already between 6, 7, 10 years, the shit will arrive still here. So I want to be in another place, in my place, because before, now I'm closing because I have to go. But before I spoke about when you go in the creation of others, you have to accept their energy and their rules. I'm born in Italy, I accepted the rules. When I realized I'm escaped, the first time I escaped when I was 17, the last time I escaped 7 years ago. In the mid, I did a lot of other things, but if I am here in a society, in a little town, I follow the rules. I use the clothes also because in the natural world, I should have to live in the jungle, maybe naked, because we born and die naked. Why do I have to go around the world? I don't want to investigate all the the customs of the humans. I can accept why the Muslims are like this, the Scottish are like this, the Americans are like this. I can accept everything because we have to know better than them why they are like this. When you are wise, balanced, and skilled, you are untouchable. Also, and especially from the bad entities, you can see with the human eyes, but are omnipresent, especially in these periods. So, be wise, not be radical, not be extremist or comic like the people on the internet. If you go flat earth, okay, surely it's not a globe, surely we never been on the moon, but neither is flat, triangular. We can't know how is the shape of this place, but surely it's not like in the television they say us. So not be extremist, be balanced, accept the life, improve yourself, never wait for an help from outside of you, because the only way to win against this world is don't play. And with this, I want to close because I have to go. But if you need something else, we are in the channels of Telegram or in the website of Philosophical School and Jus Naturalis for the emergency. Who want my contacts or Lucia? We can be reachable. So I passed the part.
Before you go, very quickly, we can know where we are. I know that's a discussion for another day, but we certainly can. Just before we go, I know Lucy. Oh Christ, I'm getting tired now. Pardon my pronunciations here. Lucia. Lucia. She had one more thing she wanted to say before I had a couple of questions that you wanted to mention. I don't know if you remember what that was now.
Oh, no. I think I really said the essential. So
Okay.
go ahead, absorb it, because there's a lot also to think about. So take it also small pills and, make it on your own. That's important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys, and it's always another extra motivation for me to find the time to dive into this. It's always top of mind, this OPPT thing, but with 3 kids and, you've got a life to live and you've got the financial, you want to get somewhere because you've got responsibilities. But at the same time, what Cristiano is talking about there, be prepared for what's to come, what may happen in the future. If, like me, researching the truth then you know that we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg yet in terms of what's to come. Between now and the next 30 years, we're going to be, if the world continues going in the direction that it's going, I think, the people
John, if I can give a piece of advice there, don't look outside yourself, look inside. Yeah, what do you see? There are beautiful things. You talk with lots of people who really want to see another world. And these energies you're moving inside you and outside you, just because you realize things, will materialize. Yes, it's true. Maybe we are going to see some tough times. But the only way to prepare yourself is look inside yourself. Be aware of who you are and which life do you want to have for you, for your kids maybe, or for your families or friends or whoever, and make it happen for you and for those people. And I'm sure that things will go right. And when I see around the globe all the OPPTs, but also other sovereign movements and self-determined movements that are going around, and even not self-determined movements. I mean, in France, we have Alliance Humaine, which is a human alliance for people with people. Solaris, which is a network of competence completely free. People who are giving services, exchange services really freely. There are so many things that are happening. And like villages and self-sufficient areas and everything that is moving. I mean, it's so beautiful. And I don't look outside, because if you look outside and you live your life with fear, everything you get out will be fear. If you look inside yourself, and you with the knowledge and the let's say trust that you can make it, then you have the potential to realize and materialize outside yourself what you truly are. Everything will happen. Everything.
So don't get me wrong, Lucia. I mean, I'm very optimistic about the future. You know, I mean, there's going to be a lot of collateral damage in terms of the people that aren't paying attention. That 80% we're talking about, but you know, the people that are paying attention, like ourselves here on the call, I think the future is set for the world of us. And it was once said in the Bible. I think that's I'm not a Christian or anything like that, right? But I thought it was a very relevant quote that came from the Bible. Is that the trees of life cannot reach the heights of the heaven if their roots do not reach down to hell. And so you need to understand the level and the depth of the worst that there is in this world in order to be able to achieve the best, because then we can root ourselves to the top by knowing what's at the bottom rather than getting caught somewhere in the middle, you know? I
interpret always this quote in a different way. For me, heaven and hell is here.
Yeah.
You know, what it really means for me, and maybe even for him or for whoever said it, is that you create your reality. A rich person that associates his own happiness with money might never be in heaven because he cannot be happy. He will never know what happiness is. And that's the thing. Happiness is not what you have, it's what you are. And that's the thing. Let's go back to who we are and materialize it step by step, you know, and enjoy it every day. Enjoy your present moment, every single moment. And remember the universal laws that I mentioned before. There's one of them that is the law of attraction. Everything that is here is outside as well. So if you start to think there will be lots of clouds, there will be lots of clouds. If you start to think like the clouds will pass, or maybe there will never be clouds, I want to be here now, and there are no clouds today, then you enjoy the present moment, and maybe the clouds will never come. So don't attract the clouds to you. Live your moment, live the present, and act as you are born to act, as you're born to be.
Yeah. I think for me it's just a bit of research that I've done. I know what the plan is, I know what the agendas is, and yes, it's like I know the clouds are coming, and so I'm going to go and get my brolly. That's what I'm doing. So that's it, you know. So in terms of heaven and hell being here, well, if that's the case, then we just have to locate ourselves properly. You know, if we know heaven and hell is both in this place, then let's go to heaven and rather than hang around in hell.
If you feel it, do it. Indeed, you have to do what you feel. Exactly that. And but you don't do it because you fear something. You do it because you wanna do it, because you feel that it's the right thing for you. You see, the motivation that is behind it and the energy that is behind it is really key. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure having you all on the call today. Is there anyone else that would like to say anything else before we finish up here?
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Lisa.
Nice to meet you. And thank you, Luke.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks everyone for sharing anything. It really, some of the things I heard blew my mind. I'm actually on the edge of my chair, like I need to go away and process this. It's like actually too much. So I think it's important for anyone that's watching to really take the time to really understand and really take their own time to process. Because for me, it can take time to integrate and process anything, especially when we're dealing with this kind of topics. But yeah, thanks again.
Nobody of this victim of this system, because our ignorance of starting, cause our parents fucked before us, is not our fault. We got getting awake in this moment. Nobody, if is still in time, like we are, you are still in time. We have we can just getting better from now on. You are not alone. You are no victim. You just are survived. And who is survived know how and is knowing that is much more stronger than another one. So love yourself all time, every day, because you are not alone. At least not anymore. I love you guys. See you soon.
Yeah, guys, thanks a lot, man, and I wish you a good night or a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.